Okay. All right. Let me take off my glasses. Now I'll keep them on. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. At least it's good afternoon in my corner of the world. My name is Lucy Gray, and I am the co-founder of the Global Education Conference Network, along with our friend Steve. And I'm also the Director of Educational Technology at North Shore Country Day School, just outside Chicago. And I am really honored to have you all here for our closing session and to wrap up the conference. We are joined today by two gentlemen who actually met in our rooms, and I've actually met them in person several times. One is Will Piper, who hails from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is just north of me. And the other is Pedro Aparicio. I hope I said your last name correctly.
Aparicio.
Aparicio.
That's right.
I sound Italian, not Spanish. I'll have to practice that. And so they met in our rooms a few years ago and started collaborating. And Will's school had Pedro come up to a conference and had me come to a conference, and we all met. And now I see Pedro at the ISTE conference with his really cute students, and he is also presented to my fourth grade friends here at North Shore. I'm going to read you their formal bios. Pedro is a global educator with 25 years teaching in Mexico City. He's a Google Educator Group leader, a Google Certified Innovator in Mexico City, and he holds a master's degree in multidisciplinary studies with a certificate in educational technologies from the state of New York. He is the founder of MexEdChat, hashtag MexEdChat, and he has been an ISTE EdTech advisor. And then let me scroll down to Will. Sorry, we've got a lot of keynotes here on our keynote page. Over the past 18 years, Will Piper has developed a world cultural geography curriculum for his fifth grade students at the University School of Milwaukee as their social studies course. The goal of this class is for young learners to understand how people around the world are both similar and uniquely different. As this course has evolved over the years, it has been Piper's goal to connect with classrooms and students in the parts of the world that Piper's students are studying about. So the Global Education Conference Network has been an invaluable resource for Will as he has met and learned with marquee educators from all over the globe. So without further ado, I want to turn it over to you, and then perhaps at the end we can have some closing remarks from my partner in crime, Steve Hargana. How's it? Does that sound good?
Great.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Okay, take it away.
All righty. Well, first off, thank you very much, Lucy, for all of the for all of your help over the years, and for allowing Pedro and I to be with you today. And just start at the end of the presentation. So we are going to be talking about global citizens and building bridges for empathy and respect. And as Lucy mentioned, Pedro and I met here at the Global Education Conference back in 2012. And I think what brought us together is we were attending a session, and my icon for my little Global EdCon icon had me and my two little girls, Hope and Gracie, who at the time I think were very young, maybe like 3 or 4. And Pedro had his little boy, Haciel. And so we started chatting on a sidebar more about parenting and about having kids.
That's right.
And that's kind of how we started connecting. Like, whoa, this is pretty cool. Like, you know, you're into doing video chat in the classroom. I'm into doing video chat in the classroom. We both had tried Mystery Skype at the time and decided, you know, for our first time, we don't need Mystery Skype. We're just going to jump right on in. And from that point forward, Pedro and I have collaborated each and every year with our students, and have had the opportunity to create projects together along with other global educators from around the world, and have also had the opportunity to present together at conferences and visit each other. In Pedro came to Milwaukee for Summer Spark. We'll talk about that in a little bit, and had a chance to visit his wonderful students and his school at the Northridge School in Mexico City. And pretty much from that time on, we've just continued to evolve as passionate global educators who have just a firm core belief that the world is a better place when we understand more about one another. And I think that's really the heart of global ed.
I totally agree with you, Will Piper. It has been a great honor to be a global collaborator. I was just talking to Poonam, who is another great teacher from India. We were having a chat before this conference. She told me that she was kind of nervous. She was afraid to take a risk and start doing collaborative works, global collaborative work. So her first global partner was Will Piper. And what a great coincidence, because 7 years ago, that's how I met you on a global educational conference in 2012. That's 7 years. 7 years ago, and it's a great experience for me, not only for me, but for my family as well, that I don't see you like a partner. I see you more than a friend these days.
Absolutely.
Because we get to know each other so well, even during our winter break or summer break, we keep on being on touch, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's wonderful, because we create global citizens build bridges for intercultural understanding and meaningful collaborations to co-create a better world for all of us. And that's the main reason why we're here, trying to share experiences with other educators and telling them not to be afraid. Something might be wrong, but there is nothing wrong with that. It's just the beginning of a new journey of experiences, great success, some failures, but that's all right. It's part of being a teacher. And to be a global educator, it takes like a further step.
So over the past 7 years, we've had the opportunity to do a lot of different work with global education, and to start things off, we've got we wanted to share a little bit about some of the projects that we've done and kind of how we've been able to connect with those. If you're somebody who's thinking about joining the global education movement and trying some new ideas, the best place that I think to find information and to connect with people is here in the Global Education Conference Network, and also through Twitter, and just using the hashtag global ed. Oftentimes you'll find projects and things like that. And Pedro and I started a few of these projects, and I'll have him talk a little bit about Dia de Muertos, Day of the Dead.
Of course, by doing the Day of the Dead projects, I collaborate with Will using Google Sites, Google Docs, slides as well. And we presented how here in Mexico we celebrate the most important tradition, which is Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos. So we work for 3-4 weeks preparing the ofrendas, the altar, the offerings, and his students and my students discuss about every single element of the offering, how we use papel picado, how we use cempasúchil flowers. These words might be a little bit weird for you guys if you're on the other side of the world, but when you get to work with so close with other educators, they kind of learn, which is the main idea for other students, to learn these common words in the from Mexico, no? Like pan de muerto, bread of the dead. Don't be scary if you are from Japan or other cultures. but this is something that we are very familiar with. So we prepare the altar, the papel picado, and we honor the dead. The main idea is that we welcome those who have deceased, the ones who are our loved ones that are not with us anymore, and it's a happy celebration. A colorful parade often happens here in Mexico City with skeletons, with sugar skulls, something like this, okay? And on November 1st, on November 2nd, we connect. Will Piper's students make a research about how we celebrate the Day of the Dead, and they have questions for my students, and my students present their projects. This is where magic happens, you know. We have real, authentic audience asking questions to my students to explain how we celebrate this tradition here in Mexico. We're not pretending to be teaching, we are actually teaching. Okay, and Will Piper's students are actually learning. They deepen the learning, they have questions, they use their critical thinking, their design thinking to ask very important questions. And my students are more than willing, more than happy to answer anything related to this tradition, right? Well, I don't know if you want to talk about how you guys celebrate the Day of the Dead in Milwaukee. You could even talk about the Latino art gallery that you go beyond the traditional marking or I don't know, the traditional lesson, that it goes just beyond everything else.
Well, I think one of the great things about Dia de Muertos, especially at least in this part of the world, is that it's becoming a more popular tradition that people that are not of Mexican or Latino heritage are starting to take on more in the United States. I mean, I actually brought this guy. This is a brewer bobblehead of a sugar skull. They call him Cranio. And this was given out at the brewer game, not this year, but the year before. I missed the one that was given out this year. But you can see that like this sort of art and culture has become more and more mainstream. And so by learning from Pedro's students directly, students are having an authentic experience. And then when we're able to go and we present Ofrendas that students make, contemporary Ofrendas about either family members or important historical figures who have passed at the Latino Arts Gallery downtown in Milwaukee for the greater Milwaukee community, they really have that knowledge and that deep cultural base to be able to talk about that and experience it. Another great thing about global collaboration is that you can literally bring people together to look at and compare and solve problems. An example of this is the Water Around the World project. And this came about a few years ago with Pedro, myself, and then we connected with a teacher named Christine Hodges, who was in Venezuela at the time. Now she's in Argentina, as well as our friend Poonam Sharma, who Pedro kindly mentioned, who's from India. And what we basically did is Christine took the lead on this, and basically we each talked about how is water used, how is water preserved, and what can we do to protect the world's water resources. And so each country, if you take a look, I'll just click on Mexico here, and I'll put all these links in the chat as well. Pedro's students, shared about Mexico City and some of the water issues that are there. We talked about the Milwaukee River, and then when you're able to put all this together, you realize, holy cow, you've got water issues no matter where you go, and it's important to be able to look at them compare them, think about them, and come up with global solutions. And this was all with 4th and 5th grade students. So it's pretty neat. You know, global connections really do make a difference for folks. And that one is a little bit more of a, you know, a example where people can start thinking about action steps too. Another,
It's let me tell you that the time zones can be a barrier here when we connect, but in the digital era, technology help us to shrink the world. Okay, even though in India right now it's 1 o'clock in the morning,
yeah, it is.
1:15. Probably Poonam cannot have a peaceful sleep because we're mentioning her name so many times. You can collaborate anywhere, anytime using technology, right? So by using Skype, by using Google Hangouts, and Flipgrid, which I'm a great fan these days of using Flipgrid, we can connect, we can share, we can create projects together anywhere, anytime.
Yeah, that is a great point, Pedro, because, I mean, you have video chat. When we video chatted in India, we're in Milwaukee, which is just north of where Lucy is in Chicago. And so, I mean, that's a huge time zone difference. But now with technology, you're able to work around all of those issues. So there's really there's no way that you can't connect with others if you are a little creative. And if you use tools and think about ways to really make the tools work for you and for your students' needs.
I want to mention something. We have someone right now with us, Amanullah Sand. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. She's from Pakistan. She's saying through the chat that it's 2:15 in the morning in Pakistan right now.
Oh,
And we also have Browning Joyce. She presented at 3 a.m. Her time today in Australia.
We had Martha was asking, what tools do we use to video chat? Well, later on the presentation, we're going to show you Flipgrid. That's a super easy one that you can use with any time zone. We also have used Google Hangouts. We've used Skype. I've used Facebook Messenger before to connect with people. I think it all depends WhatsApp I've used. I think it all depends on the comfort level of the people that are participating and what they have and what they feel most comfortable with. So,
And another tool that we used, well, we still use, is WhatsApp group. Right, Will, we have Natalia from Argentina, we have Poonam from India, we have Ek from Ghana, Will Piper and myself. We're in this global collaboration group using WhatsApp. So I use WhatsApp video with Ek.
mm-hmm.
He is from Ghana, and sometimes there are connectivity problems, but WhatsApp has been a great app, a great tool to connect with people in Africa.
Yeah, it's been pretty neat. Another way that we're able to connect is using Google Apps for Education. And Google Apps for Education, or sometimes called GAFE, is something you can use. You can create a public link, and then you can send that link on Twitter with #GlobalEd. and you're able to sometimes get people to jump in on a project. This was a simple one we did a couple years ago, which was just what are some traditions, global traditions around the world for winter holidays? Because as you know, winter holidays tend to be a big topic of interest, and depending on where you are in the world, you might have different stories, different characters, different traditions. And so I put this one out just on Twitter and had kids share about all sorts of stuff. We learned about this. This is Cagatio, Tio de Nadal, which is actually called the poop log in Barcelona, Spain. That's a popular Christmas tradition. You've got three wise men. You got all sorts of different things. Hanukkah is a tradition that many students of Jewish heritage celebrate at my school, but is not a holiday that's well known in Mexico. So, for example, when we learned about that, when we Skyped with Pedro's class, we actually sang a Hanukkah song because his students were interested in learning more about that. So it really, all these little ideas are just great examples of ways to break down those barriers with students. And a great part of global education too is the fact that you really can let students drive the learning. So whenever we do these projects, this is all stuff that students created that they wanted to do. So it's like, all right, let's learn about water, let's connect, let's put that website together. Let's learn about different holidays, let's add in some of our own traditions and then share with others. So nonstop learning going on.
So we use online technologies to bring learners together. Doesn't matter if you are in Australia, if you are in Spain, if you are in Alaska. My kids get really excited when we connect with the students from far, far away places. And they really go home. They keep talking about our social studies project, and they can't wait to start working on a new project. And they want to know if we're going to connect with students from Peru and other places like India. And this is the last global educational project we want to talk about today, is the one from India, Diwali. So when we collaborate with Poonam, she shares how her students celebrate Holi, for instance, how colorful pictures, paperwork that they design, the way they celebrate these traditions. And something I wanna mention right now is that we talk about values. We talk about respect, empathy. We talk about how it's important to respect and see different perspectives in the way they celebrate winter, the way they their customs, their traditions, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes we have to be careful when we talk about religion as well, okay? Religion is part of a culture, and being empathic, showing empathy and respect, no matter if other students have different religion, different language, different skin color, we have to be very careful. But it's like digital citizenship. We cannot wait until they are in high school or in college to talk about these issues. We have to talk about cultural diversity, that we will be talking about it later on, and see how other countries celebrate death, or how they celebrate life, their gods, important dates from around the world. And empathy, respect. Right now we're doing a global project on kindness, for instance. No matter where you are from, no matter if you are in Japan, in China, in Singapore, in Egypt, okay? We are all human beings and we all deserve respect. And something that I truly believe is that being generous, being kind to others, truly help our students to build character, growth character. It's important these days. I know we're saying wonderful things about technology, online technologies, but we cannot see values or what kind of person you are, all right? And when we talk about kindness, about respect, about digital citizenship, how to respect others while online, that really motivates me, and I feel empowered to take my third or fourth grade students, create a project, and take it beyond borders. So for the last 5 years, I have been on ISTE conference. ISTE stands for International Society of Technology and Education. And we empower learners to make a difference in their school, in their society, in their neighborhood, in their cities. They try to find creative solutions for a specific problem. They construct, they build their own learning. They are innovative designers. They use technology, so they are computational thinkers. Of course, global collaboration is another specific ingredient here to create a project, send it to the ISTE advisors, and they can either accept or reject your project. And if you're lucky and they accept your proposal, then you can go and present your global collaboration project in the United States. The coming is going to take place in Anaheim, California in the year 2020. So probably I hope to be there. Last time, Will, you were in Chicago, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And Will, who is a great guy, met us in a cafeteria, or was it in a pizza place?
Steak Shack.
Okay.
Shake Shack, burger place.
Yeah, so it was in Chicago. He came along and he visited us, and we were more than happy to tell my kids that Will Piper is a human being, a real person, because online environments sometimes can become tricky, but no, there he was. And they were so happy to see him, to ask him so many questions, and it was great. So I truly encourage other educators to send proposals to ISTE. It's a wonderful experience. Last year, I took my students to Philadelphia. They were wearing mariachi suits. It was wonderful. I met wonderful educators from around the world. And it's great. It's fantastic. I forgot to tell you that it was in Chicago that I took the Little League of Justice. My kids talk about digital citizenship. And they were very happy to present this project. One of my kids was El Chapulín Colorado. who was a Mexican hero, and sometimes you are a little bit creative. You think about crazy ideas and take risks. It can come out right or wrong, but we're more than willing to share experiences, knowledge with wonderful educators.
And just kind of speaking to that end, another great idea, if you're somebody who's interested in global education and you're thinking, gosh, where do I start? Where do I find people to connect with? A lot of conferences around the country right now are focusing on global ed because of its value in teaching about empathy and respect. Pedro, we had the honor of having him as a keynote featured presenter in 2015 at our USM Summer Spark Conference in Milwaukee, which Lucy Gray has presented at as well. And Pernell Rip, I know some people had mentioned in an earlier session about Global Read Aloud. We've had her. We've had wonderful, wonderful presenters from all around the country and around the world come to that. And I've also facilitated a session called Knights of the Global Roundtable, where we actually ended up with a using different tools, having a whole bunch of different teachers present about why global ed is important to them, featuring Pedro, myself, Christine Hodges from Argentina, Ek from Ghana, and Poonam from India. So that was a lot of fun. Another thing that I wanted to touch on a little bit about global education and its importance is a little bit about thinking about global education as a framework. One thing that happened recently at our school within the past 5 years is that we've really looked at global education not just as a standalone thing that happens in Mr. Piper's class or in 9th grade or in 1st grade, but rather a framework for looking at the world. And this is a model that we came up with as a school. And I thought I'd share it because for me, at least, it makes a lot of sense, and it makes you think about a lot of things. We kind of start off with the idea of global education. You start off with yourself, and then you think about your broader world. So how do you get there? Well, at first you maybe think about, family. How are you similar and uniquely different within your family? How about your classroom? How about your greater community? When we talk about things like, I mentioned the Latino Arts Center downtown, we're connecting with the greater community. These are things that you can do pretty much in any community in any part of the world. About your regional community, your state, and then of course your country and the broader world. What we start off with in our students in the lower school start off learning 1st grade about global issues. They actually are studying about Japan right now, and Ghana, and they also study Brazil. And so they kind of look at families and they kind of bring into their classroom and think about how are these cultures and how are these regions reflected in our greater school community. When you get into middle school, we actually start here with the world, and we kind of go from the world to the country. When we get into 7th and 8th, to a big study of United States history in our school. And so you're kind of able to apply what you know from yourself and your world to others to create action, develop insight, and ultimately learn that empathy, which is so, so important in today's day and age. One of my colleagues, Elaine Griffin, who's the head of middle school at University School, made a great comment the other day when she and I were in a meeting. She said, all it takes is one person from a different culture, from a different perspective, to break down a barrier for another person. And when you think about that, all the different things we can do to teach cultural diversity and connect with people via online chats, projects, those sorts of tools really can help make the world not only a smaller place, but also a more understanding one. And so cultural diversity is just something that is so rich in learning about people in our own communities as well as globally. And Global Ed just really is a wonderful tool to help facilitate that.
I'm sorry. I'm saying goodbye to my coworkers who are
no
leaving
problem.
the building. The world is moving at a rapid pace with changing technologies and innovative career paths. And our schools have the great responsibility to prepare students with hard and soft skills to unknown future. Therefore, we need to prepare these students with critical thinking, creativity, communication, and of course, collaboration. And when we talk about cultural diversity, is to understand different perspectives from different backgrounds. And that's what we do when we connect with students from Ghana in Africa. Last time I connected with Ek, he showed us coins, their money bills, and my kids were amazed to see other financial issues with them. And also we have a picture here from Holi in India, how they celebrate this festival in India. So when we get to know how they even behave, it's curious that last month when we presented the project, the Day of the Dead, we connected with so many classrooms from around the world, and my kids were able to see how they even behave while presenting their projects. Okay, the way they sit, their classrooms, what are the classrooms made of, what time they start classes, what time they finish classes. So this is an interesting topic that my kids were aware of, how different nationalities, different perspectives, different points of view from different students. That was very unique. That was a unique experience.
Absolutely. Another thing is I think kind of a low-hanging fruit, if you will, when you think about bringing the world into your classroom, is connecting with families of students in classes. One of the things that we're very blessed with at our school is we have a very diverse community of students ranging from a variety of different area codes around, not area codes, zip codes around the Milwaukee area, as well as students of all sorts of different nationalities and cultural backgrounds. And so bringing in parents and connecting with your students' families is another great way to share about cultural experiences and build those connections. I always use the phrase, think globally, but look locally, because you can find wonderful resources right underneath your nose in your own classroom to help promote that idea of cultural diversity and understanding and acceptance. Ultimately, when we think about global education, there's so much value that it has for both students and teachers, because it brings the world into your classroom and it brings your classroom to the world at large. And that's really what I think over the past 7 years, when when Pedro and I first met to now, it's really just been a game changer for our students and for us as educators, and collaborating with other educators and really developing that sense of pride and understanding about wanting to learn about as much as we can about as many different people as we can, and breaking down the barriers of time zones and all that sort of stuff by doing this. And it also prepares kids for the real world, because you're going to likely be working with people of all sorts of different backgrounds. You might be working with people in different time zones. You might be working with people that speak a different language. And to be able to connect and learn some of these skills and understand from doing these global projects a lot about empathy and respect is essential.
I just want to add that Julie Lindsay, who's another global educator from Australia, has a saying that the classroom is the world. Okay, our classroom is the world. So when we have these global projects, we break down the walls of boredom and bring authentic audience for our students, so they can really discuss, they can really interact with other students who might have a different point of view about their project. Twitter has been a game changer for me as well. Uh, by using Twitter, I increase my personal learning network, my PLN, and I meet other educators who want to who want to practice their Spanish. And I have Mexicans who are bilingual, they speak English and Spanish. So that's another great idea. That's another excuse to connect with other classrooms. And social media has helped me to connect with the world in just a few clicks. And I found several global communities reaching far beyond my formal educational field, because I also learn. If you are a lifelong learner and you are all willing to take risks, if you're a risk taker, and you want to challenge your students, yourself, and learn a new app, a new I don't know, maybe an emerging technology, and you're willing to take the risk and try out, why not? We are models at the end of the day of our kids. If they see you engaged, they see you motivated, you are really excited to connect to other classrooms, they will soon repeat the same excitement and be thrilled, and without knowing, they will be learning more and more about the specific topics.
Absolutely. And, you know, when we think about this whole idea of empathy and respect and breaking down borders, and understanding each other's cultures and understanding each other's traditions and understanding each other's geographical locations and points of view, all of that comes into play, you know, almost every time we do some sort of a global connected project. And that's really a magic about these sorts of projects and this sort of learning. I completely agree with Pedro 100%. I think one of the reasons why we're such good buddies and have become such close friends is because as educators, we're very similar. And I think when you have that passion and you come into class and you model the lifelong learning and you model the fact that, you know what, sometimes the technology might not work and we're going to work around that. And sometimes things might not go perfectly and we're going to work around that. And just being open to taking those risks and having those sorts of experiences for students, that you really do get into that deeper level of empathy and respect for others, which is really what we're going for here in education.
So everyone smiles in the same language, right? If you're kind, I was talking about kindness a moment ago. If you're kind, any other human being will appreciate that you are respectful, that you're kind, that you show gratitude. Okay, and it's important to teach these generations how to be a nice guy, how to be friendly, how to smile. By the way, when my kids see Will Piper's classroom, he's always smiling. It's a huge smile, and that is important. Look at the other picture. How excited, how amazed these students are when they connect. All right. They can't wait any longer to listen, to learn, to question other kids, right, Will?
Oh, absolutely. It really is a great engager for the classroom and a great way to promote the idea that we really are, no matter if we're in Mexico City or Milwaukee or Pakistan or Salt Lake City, Utah, or Argentina, or any place else that you might be watching this presentation from around the world. We really are one world and one people. And understanding and learning from each other is really what it's all about.
Being a connected educator has redefined my practice. Connected beyond my classroom has opened my mind, my imagination to a variety of pedagogies that push me out of my comfort zone, because you have to willing to risk your time, okay, your reputation if something goes wrong. You can, other global collaborators will ask you if you have time for another connection, but then you are a little bit behind with your curriculum, with your program, okay? But you know what? Take the risk. It's worth enough to truly understand, learn, share, create different projects with other enthusiastic educators who are out there.
And ultimately, what makes this fun is this, how it impacts students. So what Pedro and I did is we used a tool called Flipgrid, which basically is it's a video sharing recording platform. And we asked a few of our students to just share how, what does global education mean to you? We did not give them any sort of a script. And so we wanted to share as we wrap things up. We wanted to share some of their thoughts with you so you can hear it from students themselves about global ed.
Hola, my name is Juan Manuel. Hi, my name is Mateo. Hello, my name is Rene. And we are third graders from Mexico City. It's important to talk to other students from other countries because they learn about us and we learn about them. They learn about our traditions, culture, food, and holidays, and it's fun. Global collaboration is awesome because you can cross countries, cities, oceans, and also continents. With a click, boom, you are there.
Oh, I love that.
It don't matter if we are different or we are the same. We can communicate, we can collaborate, and we can create projects all together. Goodbye!
Hi, my name's Stella. I'm a fifth grader on USM. I think global education is important because you can learn about different people and different places from around the world. And I think learning about like different people's religion and stuff they do that you might not have ever heard of before is just a really fun thing to learn about. And it's really awesome. Hi, I'm Stella.
And I'm Maya.
We're fifth graders at University School of Milwaukee, and we're going to tell you why we think global education is important.
The reason I think global education is important is because we get to know other people that are our same age and live from around the world.
Also, to be a good citizen, you need to know about different cultures because if someone from a different culture comes into our community, we need to know how we're similar and different from them. Also, if we know people's similarities, it creates a bond between cultures, which makes you a really good citizen.
We love learning about people from other cultures.
Thank you.
Bye!
And there is another link about Dia de Muertos. So if you want, if you are studying the culture of Mexico, the history of Mexico, this is a great way to engage your students and learn a little bit more about our traditions. Okay, so take your time later if you are an elementary or middle school teacher to share these videos with the rest of your classrooms or your whole school. Feel free to watch those Flipgrid videos.
I'll put those in the chat.
Yeah, because some people, Claudia Acero is asking about the links.
Oh, yep. I will put those links up there in a second. And from the movie Coco, we thought we'd conclude things with a little bit of a sing-along. Music obviously can break down borders no matter where you go, and this is how Pedro students wrapped up their Day of the Dead presentations, and just thought it was adorable and fun. So hopefully you will too.
Yo te tengo bien, mi amor, recuérdame. Si mi vida no es llorar, llamo su triste canto te acompañará. Hasta que en el brazos tú estés, recuérdame.
Last but not least, something that through different conferences, online conferences, one-to-one workshops, Will and I came out with this quote: "The world more than ever needs teachers who truly believe in teaching kids empathy, compassion, kindness, and respect." That's our first thought whenever we connect, okay? That we need to talk and we need to teach our kids how to be respectful, how to be kind these days. No matter if we are using Flipgrid videos, no matter if we're in a Skype session, the first thing we have to model our students is respect.
Absolutely. And that concludes our presentation here. Thank you so very much once again to Lucy and to Steve for their for us to present. And we are very humble and grateful for everyone who is here that listened to our presentation, and hopefully decide to do something different, try something new, and go global in your classroom. Trust me, it is an amazing experience. It has transformed both Pedro and myself as educators, and I think it's just the neatest thing ever, and so will your students. So muchas gracias, and thank you.
Muchas gracias. Fue un verdadero placer el compartir estas experiencias con todos ustedes. Si quieren que sus alumnos practiquen español, vamos a publicar ahorita mi cuenta de correo electrónico, mi Twitter, y mi compadre Will Piper siempre estará feliz, contento, agradecido de colaborar con ustedes. And I just want to say thank you, Lucy Gray. I can express how grateful I am for this great opportunity, and see you very soon.